Hi guys, this is economics part 2, national income. The second part, the fiscal balance. What is the fiscal balance? Fiscal balance is the difference between government expenditures and taxes. So what is government earning and what is government expending? The difference between those two is called fiscal balance. Fiscal balance is equal to G minus T. G for government expenditures and T is government taxations. If G is greater than T, the fiscal balance is a deficit. It means government is spending more than it is collecting. If G is less than T, the fiscal balance is a surplus. It means they are more taxing more than spendings. The role of automatic stabilizing. As income declines, the deficit grows. Of course, as income increases, the deficit shrinks or becomes surplus. Trade balance. Trade balance is the net position in trade with other countries. It is actually exports minus imports. Trade balance is equal to exports minus imports. We have X for exports and M for imports. Okay. If exports are greater than imports, or exports minus imports, that is equal to current account, and if exports are greater, then we have current account surplus, and this is also referred to as positive trade balance. If export is less than imports or import minus exports, that is equal to trade balance, and if exports are less, then we have trade balance deficit. Okay. Okay, we know that y is equal to c plus I plus g plus export minus imports. So let's have some simple variations in national income. Step 1, subtract 3 from both sides. So we have in left hand side we have y minus t, that is equal to c plus I plus g minus t. So we are adding minus t here, plus x minus m already we have. So this is national income less taxes, that is equal to disposable income. So this is disposable income which consumers have, and this is c plus I, and this is fiscal balance, and this is trade balance. Step 2, subtract t from both sides. So we have y minus t, disposable income, and we can say that this is yd. Y minus t is equal to yd, and minus t, that is equal to I plus g minus t plus x minus m. So disposable income less consumption is equal to investment plus fiscal balance plus trade balance. So yd minus c is savings, what the consumers have and what they consume, and what is left after the consumption, that is called saving. So we can say yd minus c is equal to s. So savings is equal to I plus g minus t plus x minus m. It means savings are just used by investment, and to fill the government balance if there is any deficit, and to fill the trade balance if there is any deficit. Okay. Aggregate savings is equal to national savings plus current account surplus. So total savings what we have, those are the savings which are saved by government as well as privately saved, plus current account surplus. So we have saving is equal to investment plus g minus t plus nx uh, from previous slide. So national saving, we know that is equal to private saving plus government savings, and government savings what government left while spending all its expenses, fulfilling its expenses. So taxes are the income of the government minus government spendings. Taxes are actually not only government income, but it is major portion of the government income. So we normally government income is we show it in form of taxes generally, but it's not the only form of government income. Okay, so what the government have after taxes, government spendings, what government pays as transfer payments, and what is government paying for interest, what he has, he or she, government we say she, so government uh, buy any loan, borrowed any loan, so they are paying some interest. Okay, personal saving is equal to GDP plus transfer payments plus interest on government debts what consumers are getting minus taxes what they are paying as taxes minus consumption what they are consuming. So those are called personal savings. Savings and investments. Rearranging the GDP equation to equate the expenditures and income. So saving money investments are equal to fiscal balance plus trade balance. It means saving minus investments are used for what is left from investment by savings, that is used in fiscal balance and trade balance. As income increases, the fiscal balance and net exports declines. So income increases, saving increases, so they have negative relationship, so they are declining. If the effect of income on saving is greater than the effect on investment, the net saving increases. So income is increasing, but it has more, it is consuming, it is contributing more in savings than investment. So S minus S increases. Dealing with an imbalance, if S minus I is greater than G minus T plus X minus M, there is excess saving. So there will be more savings than consumption. If S minus I is less than G minus T plus X minus M, there is excess planned investment, but there is less saving. The balance between expenditures and income is a result of changing real interest rates. So the variable which equalize these both is the real interest rate. If there is excess saving, the real interest rate will decline. People will consume more and save less. And if there is excess planned investment, the real rate will increase. So people are going to save more and there will be more money available for investments. Aggregate demand, aggregate supply and equilibrium. Aggregate demand represents aggregate income and price level. Actually it is the aggregate income at every price level. Aggregate expenditure is equal to aggregate income. We are spending as much as we earn. This result in investment saving curve, which is the relationship between savings less investment and income Y. So S minus S minus I, sorry, it is S minus I is on the Y axis and Y is on X axis. The IS curve represents the demand for money from the goods market. So it is IS curves actually shows all those combinations in which the goods market is in equilibrium. So goods market is in equilibrium in all the points of IS curve. If we assume that planned expenditures equals actual income, there is equilibrium in the money market represented by the liquidity money supply LM curve. So LM curve actually shows all those combinations on which the money market is in equilibrium. The LM curve illustrates the supply of money fund available for investment, that is equilibrium in the money market. So we have well known money supply theory, that is MV is equal to PY, where M is money supply, V is the velocity of money at the rate at which money is changing hands. P is the price level, overall general price level, and Y is income. So let's say what is happening in IS and LM curves. The IS LM curves illustrate the relationship between the real interest rate R and income Y. So we have Y and R. So we have a negatively sloped IS curve. We have interest rate here. We have income here, and this is our IS curve, negatively sloped. So we have a negative relationship between interest rate and income in IS curve, and there is LM curve which is positively sloped. So let's say our IS curve improves and it shifts upward. IS with an increase in G. So government expenditures are going increasing. So it means aggregate demand increases, and aggregate demand increases. It means the demand for goods is increasing, and the equilibrium in goods market is increasing. So what is happening? Okay, we have an increase in LM curve with the because of M is money supply. So we have increase in money supply and increase in G. So what we have first we have here equilibrium. Now we are moving from here to here, this point, and after this, because of increase in LM, we are again getting here. So our income do not increases, only our interest rate increases here. IS, LM and aggregate demand curve. What is happening here? Real interest rate is on y-axis, income on x-axis. It means we are going to draw IS, LM curves. This is our original IS and this is our original LM curve, and we have equilibrium at some point. Here we have certain point of income level, certain interest rate, and at a point at aggregate demand curve. So let's say we have increase in LM curve. Okay, let me correct in previous this. Okay, this was an increase in money supply. Let's say we have another LM curve which is downward from original. So our equilibrium level changes. So we are moving from here to here at this point, from y1. Let's say this is y1 and this is y2. So we are moving on aggregate demand from here to here. We are demanding more, so our income level increases, but real interest rate falls. Okay, price level and income level. So we are moving from y1 P1 to P2 and y1 to y2. Effects when the central bank increases the money supply, increases aggregate demand. Aggregate supply. The aggregate supply curve represents the level of domestic output that companies produce at each price. In short run, suppliers can change the supply at the current price in very short term. Very short term aggregate supply are VSRAS. Supplier can increase profit by increasing supply in short run, not very short run, but in short run, if they are covering their variable costs. The long run supply curve, aggregate supply curve, is vertical. So let's see. This is very short run aggregate supply curve. They can increase the output, but they cannot change without any change in the price level. But it is positively sloped, upward sloped in short run aggregate supply, and in long run it is fixed. It is not going to change any supply because all the resources are fully utilized. So we have a point where we have equilibrium. Shifts in aggregate demand and aggregate supply curves. Shift in aggregate demand result from change in the following. Why aggregate demand shifts? Following are the reasons. Number one, household wealth. As household wealth increases, the aggregate supply demand curve, aggregate demand shifts upward. If household health decreases, aggregate supply demand curve decreases. Expectations: if we think there is going to be a war in future, we buy more, so aggregate demand increases. Monetary policy, reserves and interest rate: if interest rate falls, we are consuming more. If interest rate decreases, we interest rate increases, we save more and consume less. So if we consume more, aggregate demand increases and shifts upward. If we are consuming less, it means aggregate demand curve will shift backward. Exchange rate. So if exchange rate is in our favor, so we are going to have more demand, and vice versa. Growth in the global economies: there is a positive growth, people are going to demand more, and vice versa. Fiscal policy, taxes and government spendings: if government is spending more, it means they are increasing the aggregate demand, but if they are increasing tax rate, they are going to decrease the aggregate demand. Shifts in the aggregate supply result from the changing in the following: labor supply. When labor supply increases, aggregate supply increases. Human capital, quality of labor: if the quality of labor, it means more and more skilled people are coming in the market, they are producing more, so aggregate supply curve shift upward or forward actually. Supply of natural resources: if there are new resources available, or we discover new resources of oil and other natural resources which are used for production, then our aggregate supply will boost as our production increases. Supply of physical capital: if government is spending more on physical capital, they are increasing the quality and quantity of buildings, infrastructure, and electricity and other things like roads, so our aggregate supply will increase. Productivity and technology: if there is more productivity, aggregate supply curve increases and shift forward. If there is less productivity, or productivity changes from more to less, there is backward shift in aggregate supply. Technology: if technology changes, new methods are emerging, and so we are producing more efficiently with new technology, then aggregate supply will shift forward. Okay, let's have a brief description of business cycle. This is business cycle looks like. It has expansion. We are increasing in economic activities. We are at a peak of our economic activities. We are going to in downfall, having a downfall in economic activity. We are having some minimum point which is called trough, and then again we move upward. So upward moving is called expansion, peak is peak, and when we are going downward, that is called contraction, and the down point at which we again move upward, that is trough, and then we expand. Let's see what is going to affect the business cycle. Effects of the business shift in aggregate demand and aggregate supply on business cycles. Equilibrium in the price level and output at which the aggregate demand and aggregate supply curve intersect. So aggregate demand and aggregate supply curves intersect at some specific point, that is called equilibrium. A business cycle consists of expansion, contraction, peak and trough, as we discussed. Shift in aggregate demand and aggregate supply determines changes in the economy. So, what are different changes? They are shifting the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Okay, I have the error here. Okay, let's oversee it first. A recession in an economic situation in which the growth in GDP is negative. Recession means contraction. Typical definition of recession is two or more quarters of negative GDP growth. Sensitivity of investment to economy. The cyclical company is one in which the earnings are likely to decline in event of economic slowdown. If there is economic slowdown, then the production and the growth of a company is negative. So that is called cyclical company. A defensive company is one in which earnings may increase during an economic slowdown. So this is opposite to the above company. So defensive company in which the economy is going down but the company is going up. Effects of shift in aggregate demand and aggregate supply and business cycle. A long run full employment. The company is at potential GDP and equilibrium output. It is at an equilibrium where long run aggregate supply is equal to short run aggregate supply, and that is equal to aggregate demand. So in long run, every an economy is at full employment. It is using all of its available resources, all of its human capital. So equilibrium, it is producing what it can produce, that is called potential GDP. Potential GDP, let me emphasize on it. It is producing a economy is producing what it can produce, possibly maximize its production output level. And equilibrium output is equilibrium where all these intersect. Let's see, we have price level here, we have income level on x-axis. This is short run aggregate supply, we know that this is long run aggregate supply, and this is our aggregate demand curve. So at this point we are in equilibrium. So P1, okay, so this is our equilibrium level. Okay, let's see what happens when there is a change or shift in aggregate demand. We have original aggregate demand curve here. We have P on x-axis, price level, and y level, y-axis, and income on x-axis. This is our aggregate demand curve, and this is short run aggregate supply curve. This is actually long run aggregate supply curve. So this is our aggregate output level. This point is equilibrium point, and P1 we are at which point, and this is our point which is y1, that is equilibrium level. Okay, let's see, we are having some downwards shift in aggregate demand curve. So we are moving from here to here. So what is happening, we are moving from aggregate supply curve y1 to y2 this level. So our price level decreases and output level also decreases. That is called recessionary gap. So we are having a slowdown or contraction in our economy, where aggregate demand is less than the demand which is it at equilibrium level. So the supply is also less. So we are having uh, potential, we are at lower level of our potential GDP. So we are having y1 is potential GDP, but we are at y2 which is lower than y1, and we are having lower price level which is P2. It should be P1 but it is P2. Let's see the other way around, a short run inflationary gap. It is called short run because it is going to adjust in long run. So it exists when economy drives GDP beyond the potential GDP. We are moving upward from potential level, so it should be here y1 and p1, but we are moving from here to here. There is more aggregate demand than it should be, so we are moving from here to here. So price should be P1 but we are at P2. Output level should be Y1 but we are at Y2. So this is inflationary gap because it is going to increase the price level. Stagflation is other way around. It increases prices but decreases the output level. So it is because of aggregate supply curve is moving backward. So aggregate supply decreases but demand is still same. So what is happening here is supply is pressurizing the price level, so price level increases, and so we should be at P1 but we are moving from P1 to P2 for short run especially, and Y1 to Y2. Effects of shift in aggregate supply and aggregate demand on economy summary. We are summarizing everything which we have showed in the graph here. Change. If there is a change means shift. Okay. So if there is an increase in aggregate demand, so GDP is increasing, unemployment is decreasing, we are hiring more people, but the price level also increases. If aggregate demand decreases, GDP decreases and unemployment level increases because we are firing some people and price level decreases. Aggregate supply is other way around. It increases, GDP level increases, unemployment decreases and price level decreases. Aggregate supply decreases, GDP is decreasing, unemployment increases but price level also increases. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and comment if you have any problem with it, and for part 3 see our next video, or at least still wait for next video. Thank you. Bye bye.